Hello beautiful creative friends, it's Belinda and today I'm here with another project for the Confessions of a Paper Addict design team. This is another Halloween layout and the layout that I'm working on today is going to be the companion to this one, which I created earlier in the month, and I will add a little link to that up above now, to that process video. So I've got this photo of our little Boo Crew. This is the group of kids that we go out trick-or-treating with in our area every Halloween, and we have done for the last few years. And the cut file that I'm using is the parted cobweb cut file. This is new this month, and I will add a link to that down in the description box below. It does come in two pieces, so you will have a bottom piece and a top piece, but for this particular layout I really only need one side of it. It's just going to form a little bit of a shelf there, so I've only cut one of those out with black cardstock, and because it is a companion to the layout that I've already created, I'm going to be sticking with the same products, which is the crepe paper Hey Pumpkin collection and also a few bits and pieces from Fancy Pants and some other little goodies from my stash. So without further ado, let's hop on fast forward and see this one come together. Okay, so I'm going to start off by preparing my background, and I'm going to keep this fairly simple in comparison to the companion page, which I shared a little earlier in the month. I'm working with a white cardstock background, as I almost always do, and I'm just trimming that down. This purple star paper is from the Fancy Pants collection, and I had used this previously, but when I cut into a paper that I think would be useful for a border, I will always gut the middle if I can, and then put it aside so that I can use it as a border for an upcoming page, which is exactly what I've done here. I've taken that over to my sewing machine and added some messy border stitching using some black thread. I think I went around that twice just to give it a bit more of a distressed look. And for this background, I'm just going to keep it fairly simple and add some splatters. So I'm starting off with this dark purple, which is Villainous Potion, Distress Oxide. I'm also going to go in and add some black Liquitex acrylic ink and some silver Liquitex acrylic ink. I was trying to avoid having the splatters bleed into each other, so I grabbed my heat gun and I just give it a really light dry off in between each of the layers of splatters, and that's just to avoid having the different inks bleed into each other and end up with big splotches rather than fine little splatters, which is what I was going for. So you will see me do the black splatters on camera, but the silver I actually do off camera, and I will come back in just a moment and show you how I finish that off. So as I mentioned, this is a companion page to the one that I shared earlier, and I'm going to replicate some of the elements, not all of them. I'm going to replicate some of them just to really tie those two pages together. So I've got my gauze out again. This time I'm just adding a really loose, messy layer, and to secure that down, I just placed it on my background and then ran a line of stitching vertically across it, and I was really comfortable doing that because I knew that this spiderweb cut file was going to go over the top and would cover that line of stitching really well. By not adhering the whole thing down, it gives that whole sort of base element a little bit of movement to it, so it's adding a little bit more visual interest, and it really lends itself to that distressed look that I think is synonymous with Halloween. So to adhere that spiderweb cut file down, again thinking of the same thing, not wanting to adhere the whole thing down to the card, I've just grabbed my long arm stapler and added a couple of staples to the straight top edge. And once again, I'm quite confident doing that because I know that those staples are going to be covered up by my photo and my layering of embellishments. So now we are ready to work on the photo. I've got this gorgeous little photo of our little Boo Crew. This is a group of neighborhood friends. The kids have been friends for, I think, 4 years or so. They're mostly from, it all started with when my daughter started kindy, and I am very fortunate to have an amazing group of mums to go along with these lovely little friends for me. So it's certainly been a lot of fun going out and doing some trick-or-treating together over the last few years. Fun for the kids and also fun for the adults, and I hope that we will continue that for as long as we are all still living in the same area. So I am going to do a little bit more layering behind this photo than I did on the companion page, and that's just because the layout itself is a little bit simpler. So I went and had a look to see what papers and what colors I used on that other page, and so I'm bringing some of those colors and some of those papers in, just touches, light touches of them when I am layering layering underneath the photo. So what I'm doing here, I'm not adding just block layers. I am offsetting and giving it sort of like a bit of a patchwork effect. And for me, this is a really good way to bring in lots of different patterns and lots of different colors without overwhelming the layout. It's also a really good way of using up scrap pieces of paper. So once you've cut into things and you've got little bits and pieces of scraps lying around, layering them behind photos like this is such a great way to use those up. And here it's also adding lots of texture, lots of different patterns, and the end effect I think is really, really nice. This is something that I do quite a bit, and I really love how it finishes everything off. So on top of my usual white mat behind the photo, I did also add a black mat, and that's using that black polka dot paper from the crepe paper line. It just helps to, because there are so many layers behind that, it helps to really distinguish the photo from the pattern paper layers that are sitting behind it. So I'm using some really thin foam, craft foam here. I found in my local Spotlight store, they have these packs of craft foam that are a lot thinner than I've seen elsewhere. And if you've watched any of my recent videos, you'll know that I'm trying to be a lot more aware of how thick my layouts are, and I still want to add dimension, I still want to add some layers, but I don't want it to be too thick. So this craft foam is perfect. It's probably about 2 millimeters thick, I think, which is just enough to add some depth to the page, but not enough that it's going to really bulk out my layout. Now for my title, I am using these, and you'll have to forgive the time that it takes to get this in focus. These are some alphas that I have created myself using a stamp and die set from scrapbook.com, and I stamped them first in that same Distress Oxide, the Villainous Potion. Then I went over the top with an embossing ink, and then added some clear holographic embossing powder over the top. This is going to be an obsession for me this spooky season. I think I'm really loving that holographic embossing powder, and I love the effect of adding it over the top of a colored stamped image. So since I've created this layout, I have done it another handful of times, and I think it's probably going to be something that I repeat over and over and over again in my October crafting projects. So I adhered that title down off camera just to avoid having you watch me do that. I did add some foam behind each of the letters just to help them stand out from the back of the page a little bit. And then because it is sitting on a textured background, I also added some wet adhesive to those as well, and then placed something heavy over the top just to help adhere them down while the glue was getting solid. Now I'm going to add a couple of embellishment clusters. So just 2 embellishment clusters here, one at the top left of the photo and one to the bottom right of the photo. I've pulled out some of the leftover bits and pieces from when I was creating the embellishment clusters on the companion page. And then I've also grabbed a couple of extra bits and pieces mainly from the crepe paper Hey Pumpkin line. So I'm trying to repeat some of the elements from that other page, but also building on them a little bit so that this page is still unique and that it's not an exact replica. You can see that I have layered that candy die cut, which I trimmed down again. It's that sort of beigey color to the right hand side of the photo, and then I'm going to layer up some little strips here. I've got that Trick or Treat, which is a sticker from the sticker pack, I believe, but it does not have very much adhesive left on it at all. And I really ummed and ahed about where to put this, just couldn't figure it out. And I think it does end up back there alongside the photo, but I just sort of tuck it in so it's not covering up the layers behind it completely. Up the top right there, you can see that I have added a little tag tucked in behind the top. I've also added that chipboard banner, that sort of pumpkin banner, but I did remove a few layers of chipboard before I placed it down. And because I'm really quite uncoordinated when it comes to threading and tying knots and things like that, I did this bit off camera, so I've added some twine to the top of that tag, looped it around, and then secured it down with a tiny attacher staple. I've also added a black mini paper clip to the bottom right cluster and then just tied some of that twine in a knot around that as well. I've grabbed a couple of these little iridescent spider sticker pieces, which is from the Crepe Paper Hey Pumpkin line, and then I'm going to finish off with some of these orange sequins. I had a few of these left after I had finished the previous page, and also using some of the iridescent cardstock little star sprinkles that I have placed in a bowl. And once I have sprinkled those bits and pieces around, that will be it for this layout. So of course I do have some close-up photos coming at the end if you'd like to stick around for those. And don't forget to head down to the description box below for the link to the Confessions of a Paper Addict shop and the link to this particular cut file that I have used. I do hope that you have enjoyed watching this process video. If you have, I would love for you to go ahead and leave me a comment or a thumbs up. It really does help to support and grow my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I hope you go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can join me in all my upcoming paper crafting adventures. If you've been here for a while, thank you as always for all of your support. So I will leave it there for now and say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.